Hey everybody, my name is David Lobenstine from Full Breath Massage. I want to talk to you about oil. I believe that less is more. It doesn't matter what kind of lubricant you're using. I use oil, you might use cream or gel or lotion or blah blah blah. The fundamental principle is the same. I think more often than not, when we use our lubricant during a massage, we're just working out of habit. We're not actually engaging with the client's tissue. We're not thinking about how we might use that lubricant more effectively. And as we're going to talk about, I think that this inattention to the way we're using lubricant actually furthers some of the habitual problems that we as massage therapists get into. So, in this short video, I am going to make two big suggestions. The first is that your massages will get much, much better if you use less oil. The second suggestion is that your massages will get much, much better if you apply that oil or that lubricant, whatever you're using, differently. Chances are in the opposite way from what you are used to. Now, it doesn't matter what kind of massage you are doing. As long as you're doing something that involves a lubricant, I believe that these tips can help. Now, to help illustrate these concepts, using less and applying differently, I'm going to show you some clips from my online continuing education class, Pour, Don't Push. So let's start with the second principle, applying the oil differently. Here you'll see what I mean. When I give a massage, each time I apply oil, I apply from proximal to distal. In this case, the thigh to the foot. You'll see the same thing here with the back, starting with the lower back rather than what most of us do and start with the shoulders and then try to slide that lubricant all the way down the back. What I do is with each body part, leg, back, front of the leg, arm, I start with just a little bit of oil and then I apply it starting from the part of the body that's closest to the center. Okay, so again, from thigh down to ankle. This is not a stroke. I'm not doing effleurage. I'm just lightly going. I'm gently bringing my hands from the proximal portion of that body part to the distal portion. Okay? What that means is that I have an exquisite control over exactly where I am applying the oil. All right? So let's look at those again. What we have is here less oil than you might usually be using. I'll talk about that in a minute. Just gently gliding from hip to ankle. Same thing here with the back. I am gently gliding from the lower back up to the top of the body, to the shoulders. What this means is that I can spread the oil or whatever lubricant I'm using evenly. When we just start from the part closest to us, immediately go into an effleurage stroke and try to slide the oil all the way down that part of the body while we're trying to do our first effleurage stroke, it means that the oil gets all clumpy. We have too much oil or lubricant at the beginning of the stroke, and then we have not enough at the end. This doesn't benefit us, nor does it benefit our clients. But instead, if we start from the proximal portion of that body part, we get really remarkable advantages because we can apply that oil exactly how we want to. Now, I want you to keep that in mind, applying the oil from the opposite direction that you are normally used to, okay? And then we're going to talk about the key other component here: use less oil. I teach continuing education classes around the country, worked with hundreds of therapists over many years. The issue is the same. No matter what kind of work we do, Swedish, deep tissue, etc., more often than not, I find that my participants in my workshops are using more oil than is useful. What happens when we use a lot of oil? We start to slide, right? Then what happens? The client asks for more pressure because they can feel we're just slipping over the skin. Then what happens? We have to work harder than we should be working, right? We're stopping ourselves from sliding by using our muscles to break and then dig into the client's tissue. That's not good for us, and it's not good for the client. So the key here is to use less. Let's watch a few clips again, and I think you'll see how using less oil can impact your work. It's a tiny change, but it can make a huge difference. In my classes, what I suggest is just experiment with using half of the amount of oil that you usually use, or lubricant, whatever it is. If you normally take 2 pumps of the oil container when you're working on the back of the leg like I am, then just take 1, right? If you take a big glob of lotion, just take a half a big glob, right? This isn't scientific, but a little bit of experimentation will go a long way. Because what I want you to see is when you use less oil, you have the chance to give a massage that's much more engaging. Notice how I can do broad, long effleurage strokes, right? And I can also slow down and do really specific work, almost stopping, right? It's that combination of the long and the short, and of the fast and the slow, that I believe makes for a great massage. There's another benefit here using less and applying from proximal to distal. As you can see with the back, I have basically avoided applying oil right along the spine of this client. That's because she told me that she has a lot of tension right in those paraspinal muscles. So when I applied my oil from lower back to upper back, I put most of the oil along the sides of the body. Okay, I even had a little more in my hands, so I just draped the rest of it. I wiped the rest of it off on her arms. What that means is that the area right along the spine has almost no oil on it at all in this case. So it means I can do long, easy effleurage strokes just laterally to the paraspinals. Okay, and along the sides of the body, which is a real gold mine of work, right? But then it means that when I'm working as I am here, right along the spine, I can be very, very specific, right? I am not sliding on the tissue, so I can almost shift into doing more myofascial-like strokes. But that's only possible because I've started with less oil. I have then applied it from proximal to distal, and I have decided exactly where I want to apply it and not apply it. So I hope you can already see how paying a little bit more attention to how we're using lubricant enables you to be much more specific in our work, right? You can still do long strokes, but you can combine them with doing slower and even stopping strokes where you're really sinking deeply into the tissue as the client needs. Now, what you're going to find when you experiment with this is your initial instinct is to go fast, okay? This is not possible when we're using less oil. But what I want to argue is that going a little bit slower is actually what the client wants. No client is going to be disappointed if you don't do 10 effleurage strokes down the back that are rushed and feel half-hearted and absent-minded, like your brain is somewhere else, right? Instead, your client is always going to be happier if you do only 2 or 3 effleurage strokes, but they are slow and delicious and engaged, right? Because that is what our clients want. They want work that is engaged with their tissue, not just sliding over their tissue. One last little benefit of this proximal to distal work when you're working the upper body is I start applying on the posterior surface of the shoulder and then the pecs, and then I slide along to the fingertips. That means that I can work on the pecs and the bottom of the shoulder blade as I'm working. What this means is we have the ability to do real full 360-degree work on the shoulder and arm and chest all at the same time. The other nice benefit is that by the time I finish my work up at the neck, I don't have to apply any more oil because I've already applied some onto the pec and onto the shoulder blade when I'm working on the arm. So a little bit more attention to the way we're using the lubricant can make a big impact. My hope is that this has given you a little glimpse, a little taste for what is possible. I encourage you to experiment. As always, I encourage you to be easy on yourself. But I think if you try using less oil and applying it differently than you are used to, you'll find your clients will benefit and your own body will benefit. And that's what we want. So I hope you enjoy and let me know what you think. Thanks.